Good evening. Welcome to the April 15th, 2019 Jurupa Unified School District Board of Education meeting. Roll call, please.
President Garcia.
Here.
Trustee Ortega. Here. Trustee Bradford.
Here.
Trustee Char.
Here.
Trustee Rego.
Here.
Camille Hermosillo.
Here.
Jedi Hernandez.
Here.
Jasmine Leyva.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Ortega, will you please lead us in the flag salute? And before everyone sits down, would you please remain standing for a moment of silence?
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would like to hold a moment of silence for Dr. Cliff Keating, a retired employee who passed away on March 19th. He was an elementary music teacher for 33 years, from 1997 until 2010 when he retired. The board would like to express our condolences to the Keating family. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, this brings us to our inspirational comment. Mrs. Bradford.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm a gardener, and I would much rather be out working dawn to dusk and dirty when I come in at night when I can no longer see but garden by braille. So with spring being here and the lovely days, I encourage you to be outside with these comments that I'll read. I also have a ceramic tile in one of my garden beds that says, "Heaven is beneath our feet." So, Anne Morrow Lindbergh said, "For happiness one needs security, but joy can spring like a flower even from the cliffs of despair." John Burroughs said, "To find the universal elements enough, to find the air and the water exhilarating, to be refreshed by a morning walk or an evening saunter, to be thrilled by the stars at night, to be elated over a bird's nest or a wildflower in spring, these are some of the rewards of the simple life." So I have a graphic for you. Just imagine any flower. These happen to be bulbs, but we're going to talk about seeds. Your mind is a garden. Your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradford. All right, on to reports from closed session. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. There's nothing to report tonight.
All right, thank you. And item number 1, welcome 2018 and 2019 student school board members. Mr. Duchamp.
Good evening, student school board members. I just want to say, I usually don't comment too much about you, but it is just such a privilege to have you here. Not only are you a link to your schools, but you're a link to, and you'll forgive me, but I call you children, even though you're young ladies, but to all the 19,000 children that we serve, and your voice is so important, and your presence here, and I guess I would hope that you get as much out of being here, as we get out of you being here. So thank you. And with that, let's start with Rubidoux, and we'll go in that order. So Jasmine, if you could start, please. Thank you.
Good evening, fellow board members. April is coming to an end quicker than I'd hoped. On April 6th, the Rubidoux track and field team competed against all the high schools of Riverside. This competition is known as the Ring Cross Tradition, formerly known as the Riverside City Championship. As a team, we did a great job. Senior Destiny Tucker, junior Mackenzie McCarty, and sophomore Sulema Ponce competed with over 25 other girls on Saturday. All 3 of them finished in top 10, with senior Destiny placing 3rd. This is a great accomplishment for our Rubidoux athletes because this means that out of the top 10 girls in Riverside, Rubidoux owns 30% of that list. This April 6th, our ASB government took our ASB president and our school board representative to San Jose for the yearly castle. It was a beautiful experience where we learned many new things to bring back to our school campus to better it for everyone. Prom was last Friday at the Pomona Fox Theater. With this Hollywood theme chosen this year, prom will definitely be a memory that will forever play in the hearts of our seniors. Starting last week on Monday, juniors began testing for CAS. Today was the last day for juniors. Now it's time to start this week with our Spirit Week. We are starting off today with Pajama Day and following it with Twin Day. Tuesday, Wednesday is Tacky Tourist, Thursday is Black and Gold, and Friday is Class Colors. Students will gear up with their class colors for our Rally Friday, which is soaring through California. Spring sports are in the middle of fighting for playoff spots. To add as well, we hope you can come support our band concert this Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. in the Rubido Gym. That's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Jedi, would you like to tell us about Patriot High School?
This is a very exciting month for Patriot. We are currently doing our school-wide CASP testing, and we are rewarding our students for showing up on time for these tests by releasing them early to lunch to enjoy activities in the quad. This past week, our ASB took our school to Castle in San Jose. And this past weekend, our Winter Color Guard won the Southern California Championship. We are pleased to announce that 3 students from Patriot High School received awards for our speech and debate team. We are excited and look forward to our 2019 Great Gatsby Prom, which will be held this weekend at the Fox Theater in Pomona on April 19th. Next week will be our end to spring sports, and we are looking forward to watching our teams compete in the playoffs. And this concludes the report for today.
Thank you. And finally, Jurupa Valley High School. Camille.
Good evening. The Jack seniors have 25 school days left in the semester. The seniors will be receiving their cap and gown starting today and tomorrow at lunch, along with any other class items they have purchased. We are very proud of our juniors who just finished their CASP testing this past Friday, April 12th. A special thanks to the Avid 10 for creating supportive posters for our juniors. For sports, our boys tennis plays this Friday, April 19th against Hillcrest at 4 p.m. Boys baseball and girls softball also have games this Friday starting at 3 p.m. The JVHS track team has a meet this Thursday against Norte Vista, and their league finals will take place next week on April 24th starting at 2:30 p.m. home field. On April 22nd, the Riverside County Student Academic Awards event will be held at the Riverside Convention Center to recognize the county's top academic high school students. The JVHS We Volunteer Club, along with the JUSD Student Youth Court, will be attending this year's We Day at the Forum from an all-day event on April 25th. The students are looking forward to gaining a recompense for their service and gaining inspiration to keep volunteering in their communities. The juniors and seniors are excited and preparing for prom. This year's prom is themed Midnight Mystery, a masquerade ball. The prom will be this next week, April 26th from 7 to 11 p.m. at the Mitten Building venue in Redlands. On May 1st is National Commitment Day, in which seniors will be officially committing their next 4 years of their life to their college or university. At JVHS, the top 9 seniors in the class, including myself, I will be attending this event, will have the opportunity to attend the UC Reach Higher event at UCLA with Michelle Obama, along with 9,000 other students on May 1st. We hope these ladies have fun at this event, and we wish good luck to all our seniors on their commitments to their future college or university. This concludes today's report for JVHS. Thank you.
And thank you. And we are so proud of our seniors and where you are all going and what you are all doing. It seems like every year I am just prouder at your accomplishments. You guys do more in high school than I think I did through 6 years of college.
Thank you. Okay, on to recognition. Number 2A, recognize 2018-2019 school resource officers. Mr. Duchamp.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Would you like to come in so we can brag on you a little bit? Yeah, we'll go down, but I wanted to make a little comment first. Oh, come on. I got to talk about you, then we'll come down. I just want to say that just what an important part of our school district each one of you is. Being a school resource officer is a very special job because, first of all, at where you have a school and you're the person there at the middle schools, the high school, You are the face of law enforcement protecting those who come through the doors. And much more often than the other way around, you're protecting the school from people who would do harm, bring harm, and in some way endanger our children and our staff. So you stand there, sometimes alone, between the students in danger. And I know each of you have, at one time or another, put your lives on the line for our students, and we can't thank you enough for that. Then the other side of that same coin is you are a counselor, friend, sometimes confessor, sometimes the only person, even with all the love we try to shed on our students, who the students will go to feeling like they can share a problem at home, a problem with an abusive person, sometimes a family member. So you are also their lifeline in both ways. So we thank you for your commitment to this job. I know you're handpicked for these jobs. The sheriff who has supported us, the sheriff, the one that we vote for many, many years and given us the best of your force, and we thank you, and we're going to come down and give you some certificates, right?
Yep.
All right, so thank you. And I'm sorry, but you guys really look great tonight. So we have certificates, and the board would like to recognize each of you individually. I don't know if these are in any order. Not my favorite, in other ways, but because you're all my favorite. Deputy Elizabeth Urena. I knew. You get a high. And then you can take this and go shake the hands of the board or whatever, hug them, whatever. And I know you might want to stay standing up here so there's somebody can get a picture. In the end, Deputy Julian Ramirez. I'm going to have to keep moving here, I can see. Deputy Dean Montgomery. He's got some fun toys to play with. Wouldn't let me play with any of them. Deputy Cynthia Lewis. Deputy Jeremy Dortch. Deputy Rigoberto Barragan. Deputy Robbie Robinson. I can tell you Robbie works hard on the weekends. I see him at the gym. I'll vouch for him anytime. I know you guys think he just talks, but he works hard. Deputy Patrick Larson. Deputy Ed Soto. Sergeant Ed Soto, I'm sorry. I'll bet. Not by me ever. Lieutenant Steve Cussy. You're new, we welcome you. Thank you so much. Captain John Moran. And just, I don't know that the board or everybody has met the lieutenant and captain, but the lieutenant also serves as the Jurupa Valley Chief of Police. Well, right? No? Okay, I don't know what, okay. Yeah, let's.
Not this
changed.
lieutenant, but the other lieutenant.
Other
Danny Young.
lieutenants.
Oh, okay, all right, got it. And the captain is the captain of the station, so.
He's the big captain.
So we want to thank you all. And this one's yours, and if you could deliver the other one.
Thank you very
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Just real quick, I know Mr. Deshawn already, I think he must have stolen my script because he said a lot of the things I was going to say. But I want to thank each and every one of you. I know how important it is. Thank you for your service, first of all. And it is very important for our students, especially to see some authority at the schools. And thank you all for your dedication. Thank you. All right, moving on. Item 2B, recognize Hannah Dam, Patriot High School soccer player. Okay, excuse me. Recognize Hannah Dam, Patriot High School soccer player. Mr. Dabrowski.
Okay, I don't think Hannah's here tonight, but the Southern California News Group honors the region's top winter sports athletes. The award winners and teams are selected by the high school sports reporters for the Southern California News Group. Administration would like to congratulate Hannah Dam, Patriot High School student, for the honor of being one of the all SoCal varsity girls soccer team top athletes.
All right, congratulations, Hannah. 2C, recognize Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW 2019 Teacher of the Year. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. The VFW Teacher of the Year Award Contest recognizes exceptional teachers for their outstanding commitment to teaching Americanism and patriotism to their students. We are happy to announce that the VFW has selected Mr. Bob Green, Patriot High School teacher, as their 2019 Teacher of the Year. Mr. Green was honored by the VFW at a ceremony on April 7th, and we want to thank him for teaching our students the importance of honoring our nation's patriotic values and congratulate him.
Thank you, Mr. Green. 2C, recognize, 2D, recognize Best of the Best winners for 2018-2019 Employee Recognition Program. Mr. Brooks.
It's my honor to speak to you tonight on behalf of the Best of the Best Committee. So obviously, as you know, our committee took many nominations throughout the school year, and we had the great pleasure of celebrating so many of our wonderful and amazing employees and the excellent work that they do throughout Jurupa each day throughout the year. Tonight we will recognize one overall winner who will be receiving a voucher for two for the Mission Inn. So we'll do that drawing here in a moment. First, though, I would like to recognize all of our recipients for the current school year. If any are present here, please stand when I call their names. I know the two who are here. So first, Cindy Clark, Library Technician at Jurupa Valley High School. Crystal Freeman, Administrative Secretary here at the Ed Center. Linda Del Toro, Counselor at Mission Middle School. Ernie Valenzuela, Teacher at Miraloma Middle. Sylvia Bottom, the Principal at Glen Avon. Joan Lauritsen, the Principal at Mission Bell Elementary. Bertha Romero, Activity Supervisor and Instructional Aide at Pedley. Ofer Adams, outreach worker. Miriam Reyna, a translator clerk typist here at the Ed Center. Deborah Young, a preschool teacher at Sunny Slope. Valerie Boda, a program specialist in our special education department. Matthew Netto, a teacher at Patriot High School. Susan Weisner, a teacher at Mariloma Middle School. Mr. Joshua Lewis, the Director of Education Technology here at the Ed Center. Please stand, sir. Our very own Vitas, who is our computer support technician here at the Ed Center and at each of our board meetings. Lilia Guillen, who's the bilingual language tutor at Ina Arbuckle. Sandra Rainsbury, a secretary at Jurupa Middle. Corrine Ortiz, a teacher on special assignment here at the Education Center. Alexandra Rangel, a teacher at Peralta. Helena Scher, a teacher at Jurupa Valley High School. And Brandon Burr, who is a high school principal, assistant principal rather, at Rubidoux High School. You may have a seat. Thank you. So as to our drawing and our winner for our drawing, I'm going to ask Trustee Bradford if you wouldn't mind doing the honors and selecting a name from.
And the recipient of the fabulous time will be Valerie Boda.
So we'll make sure that Ms. Boda is able to receive this tomorrow. But congratulations to all of all of those recognized throughout the school year, and we look forward to next year and having the opportunity to honor more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. And item 2E, recognize Josh Lewis, Inland Empire Q Technology Leader of the Year. Mrs. Ford.
Recently, Mr. Josh Lewis, Director of Education Information Technology, was awarded the Inland Area Q, which is for computer using educators, Technology Leader of the Year. Awardees are recognized for outstanding educational and information technology achievements within their own district and throughout the Inland Empire. They are nominated by their peers, and awardees are selected for their ability to effectively lead and implement exemplary programs. JUSD has become a regional leader in technology innovation, and quite often, and this has happened many times, other districts seek out Mr. Lewis and his team for advice and guidance. We are proud of Mr. Lewis and appreciate his dedication and commitment to our students, teachers, and staff. Please join us in congratulating him on his well-deserved recognition.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford. Congratulations, Mr. Lewis. Well deserved. Okay, on to number 3, board member comments. Ms. Regal, start with you.
Thanks. I want to definitely recognize the people that really earned it, and especially our sheriff, the RSOs that come to the campus. You're providing safety, and every day you come forward and make sure our children are safe. So thank you. That recognition was definitely well deserved. And Hannah Dom has been a longtime friend of my daughter, so I've heard the soccer career for years, and really excited and to see that our final year to be recognized as something so prestigious. So congratulations, Hannah. And wanted to just cover a few things that I went to over the past couple of weeks. It's been a wicked couple of weeks, very busy. I managed to visit Rubidoux High School, so Elliot and Trent, thank you for taking me out there to tour around and see a lot of those programs and the photography and just how far advanced they are in the medical systems. I think the student nurse was like ready to hook us up to an IV and pull out blood. She walked through those programs, and it was quite impressive that they were so confident at such a young age. And you could see her ambition to even be a neonatal nurse, and all the other students, they were just so excited about it, and they're so young to already understand this, so they're going to have a bright future. A couple things that I did join the NARCO advisory board for RCC NARCO, attended the first meeting, and they're looking at some programs of, when the military when they complete their terms, of how to get them back into high school, and definitely, encourage them to talk to our students that are going off into the military to come back and you can attend, under your GI Bills or whatever, but want to make sure that we encourage our students, if they decide to go into the military, they can always come back and finish their education. And then as far as Mr. Green and the VFW Awards, I was able to attend that event last week, and there was some scholarships they received, right? The middle school students wrote scholarships, which was so neat, and I love that the principals and Paula came out and took that time on a Sunday morning to recognize these young students while they're preparing and already showing that willingness to prepare an essay and work on that scholarship, so when they choose to go to college, it was really exciting. So congratulations to Bob Green. And then also, I think if I have all the names right, it was under the Patriots pen, so J.C. May, Caitlin Pope from Mariloma Middle School, and Natalie Lopez from Mariloma Middle School, and then Carly Perez from Mission. Congratulations to those students. And then Mr. Case from Patriot has continued to organize a winter showcase for winter percussion and color guard, and I went to that last Thursday, and it was quite moving. Rubidoux really has put together some large programs. They have actually a varsity and a JV color guard team, and then they have an all-men's color guard, and they can throw those rifles up so high. It was quite impressive. And then over the weekend, so Paula and Daniel, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules. And on the weekend, while Karen and I took 2 more courses through Master in Governance. So we have 1 more class, but it was valuable information to learn this weekend just so that we can be better at our jobs. So thank you, you two. And that's all I have for right now.
Thank you, Mrs. Regal. Mrs. Chard.
Well, I want to congratulate all of the best for being recognized by your peers, and congratulate Valerie Boda for winning that trip. I spent the night at the Mission Inn, and I know she's going to enjoy it. It's very, very nice. Makes you feel like you're far away, and that's what she'll need, I'm sure. Congratulations to Hannah Daum. I've known Hannah since before she was born. Her mom was working at Einar Buckle, and she grew up at Einar Buckle, and then I've watched her become a beautiful young lady and a great athlete, and we're very proud of her. I wish her lots of luck when she goes on to college, because I know she's looking at some really great colleges too. And Bob Green, congratulate him on the VFW award and the students that were receiving the honors there at that breakfast. I'm sorry I couldn't make it, but I believe Bob attended the Veterans Day program, I think, at Rubidoux, and he supports the program, and I think that's something that is wonderful for our teachers to be involved in that too. I mean, sometimes you can get away from that kind of stuff and don't really have the time to get behind it, but it was wonderful for him to be honored by the BFW for his teaching in his classroom. Also, congratulations to our high school board members. You've had a long year, and if you listen to yourself, it's coming to an end. When you start talking about commit day and graduation, ordering your cap and gown, and all of these things that start coming, before you know it, you're going to be walking down that aisle and getting your diploma. So congratulations to all of you. All right, the ones that are seniors. I'm sorry, not all of our board members are seniors this year, but listening to that, it's starting to go fast, and pretty soon the year will end. I think. Oh, I wanted to just mention that I did go to the County Science Fair, and we had a great showing. Our students from Jurupa Valley High School and Rubidoux High School got silver medals, and then there were some younger ones that got them. But we had a great number of kids. It was outstanding to see all these kids, and some of these elementary kids that are bringing up science projects that are just out of this world. I don't know how they come up with the idea of their science project, but it's beyond me, and I'm sure that our kids here are doing the same thing. It's just the ones that got honors there were just honored by companies, and that's what the recognition, being in the science fair, competing in that, and being sent on to the the district, from your school to the county, and then to the state. It's quite an honor, and you do get recognized. People do take notice of you. So if you have a student that's wanting to do that, they need to keep that in mind, that science fair is something to really participate in. I'm very proud of my granddaughter. She got a silver medal, so I was very, very happy to see that. And the only one from Rubidoux, I have to say, too. Einar Arbuckle Library had their unveiling this past week, and it's beautiful down there. It really is. All the contractors were there, our support people, to help provide everything for us to make it look like it does today. And it's still not finished. There's going to be so much more that's going to be added by the students and the families there. They're going to be able to participate and make it their own home. It's not like what it was when I was there, but now it's their new home, and they're going to make their memories there. So it was really a nice activity. Thank you, Dr. Hansen, for organizing that, and for us to get to meet all of those people. And then to our board members, you're getting there. You're going to be one of the. We'll have another complete board that'll have all of our. Will be completed in the Masters of Governance. Yes. So, how many more classes do you have? One. One. All right. Congratulations and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Chard. Mrs. Bradford.
I have an emotion-filled report for you. I'll do the, first I'd like to again thank our SROs. Two of my nephews were SROs in where they lived, and I know what they told me about the students and the children, talking to them. So thank you so very much for sharing your lives with our students. I'm very proud of you and your cohorts. I'm proud of our teachers and our students, Dr. Green, Mr. Green, Hannah, our best of the best. It was lovely reading the compliments of peer-to-peer recommendations. Josh, thank you very much. As I say to Josh, I always feel better when I see him in the room. Vitas, I always feel better when I see you, because I know that when it's important, with what I wanted to show for the 9/11 memorial, for my inspirational speech, you made that perfect. So thank you for your talents. I went to, if you have a minute afterwards, I'd come up. I have some things to show. I went to Peralta's Career Day to talk about my profession as a writer and photographer. So I went dressed as an action figure in cowboy boots, jeans, my photographer's vest that has all the pockets and zippers and places for keeping things. I received the most wonderful notes back from the children, and these were, I think, third, fourth, and fifth graders. Dear Dr. Bradford, I like how you take pictures of interesting states and areas. I have a thoughtful question for you. Did you have to go to college for your job? Thank you. And the teacher said that the students remembered what I said. And this is what impresses me about the seriousness of this position, is that I know you ladies, Jasmine, Jadai, and Camille, are watching, but the other students, when we're visiting at your schools, they pay attention to adults being involved in their lives, and these notes just make me so, it compensates for the times I feel scared about being a trustee. Let's see, what else? Oh, going to Ina Arbuckle. I walked around with tears in my eyes at the school for the unveiling, and I had to tell Principal Wandry that no, they're good tears, to see the environment that the children have, that the community is proud of, that he is pleased that the community uses as a meeting place and a resource center. And our superintendent, Dushan, made a comment at the at Ina Arbuckle saying that schools are the economic development departments of our communities. And that really struck me of how true that is with our teachers and the staff and how they interact with the students, develop their minds. So let's see, I think that's about the extent of it. The Masters in Governance courses have been very involved. This last one was learning how to fund the district, how to provide for the teachers, the classified staff, and it was a very intense amount of reading and learning. But thank you to Assistant Superintendent Mrs. Ford and Assistant Superintendent Mr. Brooks. Your attendance there explaining it made helped me tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradford. Ms. Ortega.
So just wanted to congratulate all the recognized this evening, and really thank you, the resource officers. I think these past few weeks, I've been asked why I do what I do, and I think students such as our students up here need someone that they can look to and feel resembled, like they can connect to. And people say, you're so young to do what you do, but I don't think it's about being young. It's about doing what your heart is really passionate about. And I really do. When I was shaking your guys' hands, I can tell that the resource officers do it with heart and with passion. So we thank you for that passion, and in whatever way that we can continue to support that, please let us know. Thank you. And also, Josh, Vitas, I think anytime that we have an IT problem, I think we get nervous, and you kind of also, allow us to eliminate some of that nervousness up here. Just recently my keyboard wasn't working. It was a very small thing that, you guys were able to help. So it's not a surprise to me for you to get those awards and those recognitions. So we appreciate all the little details, even minor details that you bring to our district and into our community. So thank you for that. We attended Duo Immersion showcase this past weekend, and it was beautiful as always. Thanks to Martha, the director there of Language Services. Every year it keeps getting bigger and bigger. I didn't know, Martha, really the history of how it started, and you sharing that just inspired me so much of how really you making those connections and our district really being invested in what dual immersion is. And, one of our students here, Camille, getting the seal of biliteracy, how just that shows that we care, and that, parents are also being very involved. President Garcia and I got to speak a little bit, and I think, just the raving fans that these parents are to these students, I think it's very impressing. And, taking that weekend, that weekend day, because it's really it's literally a showcase where the kids are dressing. I think there was like 2 Fridas and a Abraham Lincoln, and you're really immersed into that. And more than anything, I think us inviting our also local representatives who represent us in the state level, such as the Assemblywoman Sabrina Cervantes, who is also very invested in our programs and who sees the growth opportunities that we also have, and her being able to speak of our programs, I think shows how we also not only integrate our community, but also in every different level. So that was really nice to be able to be in attendance this past weekend. And the weekend before, we did the VFW as well, and Mr. Bob, who was there with his family too. Just, I think, us really taking that time to learn how our teachers and, Paula Ford, you being there too, it just shows that we are a big family, and that we want to continue to support, different paths. And I think today, Sabrina Cervantes went into his classroom to, talk about government and how important it is to their students. So I'm very proud again of all the work that we're doing. And I briefly was able to attend Ainaboko Open House too. So we're hoping that we can go back and really tour, all the improvements. And thank you, Trent, for allowing us to be there and witness, again, all the labor of love that everybody has been putting into these new projects for the students and our community to enjoy for the long run. So I think I'll leave the rest for later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. And I just wanted to congratulate again all the recognizees, and especially Mr. Lewis. I probably need the most help most of the time, and I appreciate your patience. So, and it's definitely well deserved. I got an opportunity to go to the Q conference a couple of years ago and saw the fantastic work there, and so keep up the great work. And I too went to the dual immersion, as Ms. Ortega mentioned, and of course I want to thank Ms. Martha Gomez, Iracema, Esther, and all the team, everybody that's there. I mentioned during the thing that without the parents, we wouldn't have a program, but without the program, we wouldn't have the parents either. So appreciate all your hard work. And I know we had more students this year, I think, than last year that attended. I think there's sometimes a little conflict. But, and as Ms. Ortega mentioned, Ms. Cervantes was there. She was also there. She was also in our community the weekend before at Glen Avon Heritage Park for the community garden in support of a group that's helping there to start community garden, and they're also looking to do community internships for our students. I think they're going to offer like 10 internships for the summer, paid $1,000 each. So hopefully we get that information to the folks here at the district, and our students can take advantage of that. A couple of things I got in the mail today. First, I got an invitation to something, and it's about Riverside County Health Foundation. The only reason I wanted to bring this up is because, Jose Campos is on the board of directors, so I just wanted to thank him for that. I know he's on a lot of boards, but it's nice to see our folks on these types of things. And one last thing, this Riverside County 2019 report to the community, Riverside County Office of Education, Camille Hermosillo is in here. I don't know if you have a copy of this, Camille. If you want, you can have it. Your name's in here. I'm going to read what it says real quick. And it says, in our district, Jurupa Valley, Jurupa Unified, one of the students we are most proud of is Camille Hermosillo. A senior at Jurupa Valley High School, demonstrates the district's values and is a strong example of what it means to learn without limits. Camille is an honor roll student who has served Jurupa's Student Youth Court as a juror and interpreter. She also is a member recently named chair of the Student Advisory Board for the California Association of Youth Courts and was a semifinalist for a student member of the State Board of Education. So I want to congratulate you for that, Camille. If you'd like, you can have this copy when you take off, okay? And that's all I have for tonight. So we'll go ahead and move on to public verbal comments. And the one card I have is Ms. Sylvia Olgain.
I received a call from several parents from Camino Real. I hadn't noticed it when I drove in to go to work, but when it was pointed out to me, I did. There is now a big logo on the front of the school. We've never had that at Jurupa, ever. It's plastic. It's something that the kids are either going to shoot BB guns at, or with the weather being as it is, it's going to get destroyed. I have been fighting for years for these students to get driver's ed and driver's training. And that's a no-go. What is more important, that a logo be represented in front of each school, or that these kids get home safely because they have been taught correctly at night? It boggles the mind what money is being spent on. This is ridiculous. And that is what those parents were so irate about. that you'll spend money on something like this when this stuff, this monies that were spent for this could have gone to the kids in a much, much better way for them. When is it going to stop? When is the board going to say enough is enough? Enough waste is enough waste. We need to bring back driver's training and driver's ed for these kids to make sure they are safe.
Thank you, Ms. Holguin. I have no other cards. Anyone else in the audience would like to address the board at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to number 5, administrative reports and written communications. 5A, California Standards, LCAP Implementation Report. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. Tonight I wanted to give the board a brief update into the differentiated assistance process. As you're aware, part of the California State Accountability, differentiated assistance is offered to districts when they have a student group that has 2 or more areas that are red on the dashboard. And we were identified this year as having that need with our foster youth, with our homeless youth, and with our students with disabilities. So when I last spoke with the board, we were about to go through a process facilitated by RCOE to do what's called a root cause analysis, to come together and with their assistance really take a deep dive into one of those particular groups and kind of take a look and see what we can see and what we can do to affect positive change. So we as a district chose to look at our foster students in that process. And so in February and in March, a team from Ed Services spent 2 days with our COE taking a deeper look, and I wanted to just kind of report back and give you a little bit of a taste of what we did, what we learned, and what we are now doing or will be doing in the future as well. So for the process itself, we took a look at several different types of data. We reviewed the standard, like the achievement data of our students, and the areas of our foster youth that we were concerned with was graduation rate and college and career readiness rate. So we looked at data for our high school foster students. We did a series of what's called empathy interviews. So we designed a set of questions that our guidance coordinators asked of our foster youth, and to get their thoughts and impressions about school, about their goals, about what they would want us to know about them, and about how we could better serve them. We took a look and created a process chart of the flow of enrollment, how students and their families or their foster families get to the district, how they're enrolled, how that information gets to the school, and how assistance is offered. And then we took a look at the different types of foster placements. For example, in our district, we have some foster students that are in family placements. We have some that are in foster homes, and we have some that are in group homes. And so we took a look at what are the impacts of those 3 different placements, and how might they be different, or how might we serve those different groups better. Some of the things that we learned, for example, because we're looking at our senior population, at least that's the group that we have data on for both grad rate and college and career readiness. And we learned that it was a very small population. There were about 23 students that made up that group. And we found that we were actually 1 student away from not qualifying. So, you know, on one hand, it was like, oh, we were almost not identified. But on the other hand, it was like, yay, we got the opportunity to take this really deep dive and really kind of look at it. So we were happy about that. We did learn that of that group, the way that group is measured is they look at students who are there as freshmen and track them all the way through their senior year, and then anybody who arrives in the meantime to make up that senior cohort. And we found that, as you might guess, it was a highly transient group of students. So we had some students that arrived their freshman year and were only here for a little while and left. And we didn't really have a lot of time to impact their education. We found that there were some students who arrived as late as the 2nd semester of their senior year. And so we didn't have a lot of opportunity to impact their education. So we sort of learned from that time is of the essence, and that we really need to hit the ground running and provide all the support for these students as quickly as possible, and look at ways that our support might follow them if they leave our district. We we looked, the interview information that the guidance coordinators provided us from the foster was really powerful information. It really spoke to the struggles that the student population has and their aspirations, that they want a positive future and their ability to go to college, and the things that they would like us to know were really moving and really reinforced our ambition that we impact some change and maybe raise that achievement level and provide better service for those students. And we also found that in our enrollment process, there were some changes that came about as a result of us changing from enrollment at the sites to enrollment at the central office. And so we had to make some changes to make sure that process was going to be more smooth, and that information got to the right people at the school site in a really quick manner, and that they could make change quickly. So as a result of those things that we learned over those 2 days, there are some things we've already put in place and some things that are works in progress. For example, we've begun some training for our counselors. For our foster youth, there's a law that states that if a student moves schools during their junior or senior year, they are eligible to graduate under the state's alternative minimum graduation requirement if they would not otherwise be able to graduate under our JUSD requirements. So we spent some time training our counselors to make sure that they're looking at that and analyzing transcripts right away, looking at their scheduling needs, looking at the need to give them partial credit. If a student, like for example, if a student moves mid-semester, they may have only earned 2 credits out of the 5 that they might get for the semester, but we're making sure that we can then take that student and get them the 3 that they need to comprise that full semester, and making sure there are systems in place at the schools to complete that process. We have revised the flow chart for enrollment so that information and that transcript data that is so needed at the high school level to be able to make those determinations arrives quickly. We have worked on some positive notification digitally so that our teachers are aware who their foster youth are and can offer them extra assistance as needed, or if there are system-wide or school-wide extra assistance opportunities, we can make sure those students are high up on the list and can take advantage of those things. We have, through our PICO department, tasked one of our interns with providing support for our foster youth. So they are working with students at the high schools and the middle schools to provide them support and make sure they have all the support that they need. We also found that the student group themselves, CalPads, which is our state student data system, actually pulls the information from the Department of Public Social Services, not from our records, as much of our data is pulled from our Q system. And we found that there were some mismatches where perhaps a family came in and registered but didn't report that the student was actually in a foster placement with the family. So where we weren't necessarily aware that this was a foster student. So we were able to, with the help of technology, build a reporting system so that we can pull reports directly from CalPads and compare with our information system and make sure there were no missed students, that every student who is being identified who is in foster placement is on our list and we know about it and can serve them. Additionally, we have some future work that we're now beginning to work on, and that is based on that long-lasting impact theory. We would like to have, and we're building some programming into our system so that we have a dashboard for graduation progress and A through G completion progress and career technical education pathway progress, with the idea that if it's quick and available information, if a foster student is going to check out and is being moved to a different place, we can hand that student a thumb drive or a file or give them that data so that they can take it with them immediately and they have all that information and they can sort of own that place where they are on their journey to graduating and being college ready. So in hopes that when we do have students that move, we can assist them on their way to their next placement and give them all their partial credits and make sure they know exactly where they are and exactly what their next steps need to do at the next stop. So a whole series of things in place. We learned a lot. I'm kind of grateful for the opportunity to really kind of dive in and take a deeper look with the assistance of the county. Some of these data tools, like the empathy interviews and the process chart, were some things that they brought to the group. It was a group of 15 districts, each of us looking at our own particular area of focus. And we look forward to making some change. And although we recognize at the same time the group is very small, and there's going to be a portion of that group that we don't get much of an opportunity to impact, but we'll be able to do as much as we can, as quickly as we can. But also knowing that for that population, we'll have some services in place that will better serve them and give them greater opportunities. So that's our take. Differentiated assistance is re-identified every year. So next November, when the dashboard comes out again, we either will or won't be in differentiated assistance based on the scores at that time. So we'll know year to year, like whether it's a different group or whether we're no longer in that group, or but we're looking towards permanency and building in supports that will last over the long term.
Thank you, Mr. Dabrowski. Any questions? Mrs. Chard.
Mr. Dabrowski, that sounds like a really good program. I really like that because I've seen the foster kids come through the elementary level and where they're moved around a lot. And for the seniors, it is really, really important. Do you foresee that once this gets going, that it'd be easy to move elementary students into and middle school students into that too, so that, like you said, if they have to leave in the middle of a semester or where they're about to graduate or move ahead, they have something that they can take with them? And can it be a consortium like within the counties to get it going?
It's interesting that you said that. There have been attempts across multiple counties to get it together and build a system-wide thing, but they've never been able to get all the different counties and DPSS agencies to agree, so that hasn't happened. But there are some things that wouldn't transfer to elementary, like that partial credit type information. It would just be like a progress report, which we already would provide our outgoing elementary students. But things like the positive notification to teachers so that they know, like, this is a student to maybe check in on more often, and give opportunities like ELO to. Yeah, absolutely. Those things will be system-wide, so they will immediately affect elementary and middle school too.
With the high school students, I know, and then in elementary too, sometimes they slip through the cracks and they leave without anybody knowing, how they're leaving or whatever. What is their solution to prevent that? Just a continuous monitoring of them and or teaming them up with someone, another senior or something where they don't leave without at least making contact and saying where they're going, because I know sometimes they have to be uprooted like that.
Right, and sometimes that happens, as you know. We may not know about it until we get a records request from the next school placement. Yeah, and unfortunately there's not really a way around that for us unless we're able to get them to tell us where they're going, and sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't, depending on the foster.
But if we build a good communique with them, then they might be able to
definitely
keep us more informed. Good. I think it's a great program. Sounds really good. Thank you.
Mrs. Bradford, you have a question? Comment?
Yes. You mentioned that there were comments that the students wanted adults or the teachers to know. What do you remember them saying?
I'll give you a few. I get a little emotional when I think about them because it was very moving as we were reading them. Yeah, things like, I miss my family and I wish I could be reunited, or I want you to know that I come from a group home, but I'm not like some of those other group home kids. I really care about my education and I want to have a future, or I know I have a lot of struggles and I'm struggling to be happy, but I really want to go to college and I want to be this. Like, they're just the dreams that everybody has, but with a lot of obstacles in the way and some emotion attached to it. It was pretty powerful.
Did they give you anything that we could use to help our foster youth in our district? Well, certainly those understanding the emotions and the feelings that those students have will help us with the intern and the social emotional support piece. And I think it helps our staff to better understand who's in their class and what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. I think, like, as the Ed Services Department were reading it just
like tripled our commitment to think we need to do everything we can possibly do. And so as we send out that information, which we plan to do, and we've shared with the counselors already, I think it will just help to motivate people to want to intervene in a positive way.
Do you have an idea of how long, I know it must vary tremendously, but how long do they tend to stay with us? Long-term, short-term?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, sometimes a student will be in a foster placement for years and years, and sometimes it can be a very, very transient where, less than a semester. So it's all the way from 12 years to 4 weeks. And I couldn't really say that there's an average or anything like that.
Do you have a number of approximately how many foster students we have in our high school system?
The number that sticks in my head is 123. And so it's something right around that number. I may be off by 1 or 2, but that's about the number.
Okay.
Are there siblings?
Sometimes. And sometimes siblings that are together and sometimes siblings that are apart.
I can't imagine how heartbreaking that is.
Dabrowski, I had a question. So we had 3 different groups. It was homeless, disability, and foster. So we only had to choose one?
We chose one to participate in the process. We are, without going through the process, we are putting things in place for the other groups as well. And I'd be happy, would you like me to give you a few examples of those things? One of the things with our homeless students is we found that our identification process needed work. Because, for example, when a foster student enrolls as a foster student, they remain a foster student permanently. It doesn't have to be renewed. Whereas every year, a student who is enrolled as a McKinney-Vento homeless student automatically defaults to not being a homeless student the following year. So we encountered some disparities in our identification process, and so we have brought all of our enrollment staff together to fix that problem, because we realized that we couldn't really take a good look at the data because the data was inaccurate, because it wasn't, the groups of kids were all over the place from school to school. So that was our first step with this population, is getting the enrollment correct so that we can then have the right group of students to look at, and then look at the data, and then participate in that process on our own. And then with our students with disabilities, they were read in multiple areas of achievement. And so we've been looking at some really systemic ways to work with building improvement. And we have been doing that for several years with our inclusion committee, with the work we've been doing to train our gen ed teachers to work in a more inclusive setting and expose our students to a greater level of rigorous curriculum at their grade level, to support our student study team process, to work on our intervention for literacy that happens at both the secondary and the elementary level, and better support them academically. So we felt like with that group, we already have a whole bunch of interventions in place that are working, but will need more time to continue to work. So that's kind of where we were. And that was sort of the reason why we chose foster, because we felt like we couldn't get an accurate picture of data with homeless. We already had what we thought was a really good handle on where we're going with our students with disabilities, and foster was an area we thought we could really make some change.
So you don't have an average of how long a foster student stays within a campus?
I don't have one. I mean, we could probably pull that out of our system, but it is very varied. And when I talked about the 3 different types of placements, whether it's family or foster home or group home, the average would be very different for each of those 3 groups, the shortest being the group home, middle being the foster home, and then the longer placements being family placements.
Okay. Just curious, I mean, with the fluid environment, I mean, from day to day, I'm sure it's more challenging for them to absorb the information as what's required. And then you also mentioned about the state regulations for a diploma if they're there on their senior year. And if they choose to go on to a college, are they going to have to take those basic courses in a community college?
Yes.
And is that, who's covering that? Is it waived for them, or are they going to have to pay those full fees to take the courses that they could have taken in high school?
I don't know about fees at the college level, so I don't really know how to answer that question, but I can tell you, yeah, the alternative minimum graduation requirement is basically all of the core classes and not many of the electives, the CTE, the things like that, so it's not A through G. So we do counsel students, and we that's not our first option. It's only when a student won't be able to graduate in time under our graduation requirements that we would then talk to them about the alternative minimum, because that would affect their ability to, in particular, go to a four-year college, although like a community college, they would be available to do that. And as long as they take, like for example, language arts, those requirements are the same as the district's requirements, so they would still be eligible to take a placement test and begin taking like college level English if they demonstrate the skills.
And then do you work at this around surrounding districts or countywide so that neighboring districts are on the same program? And because I'm sure most of the families or a foster child usually stays within a certain county. So local school districts are working on something similar so that it's all cohesive?
Local school districts we are sharing information about the strategies that we're employing at our sites to impact change for our students. And as a matter of fact, there were several districts that were also focused on foster youth. I mean, it depended at each district, but the system itself, with the foster youth, because we're dealing with the foster agencies as well as the school districts, there is not a coordination system in place across multiple districts or agencies at this time. But we share with other districts, like the people in my position, we talk about, what are you doing, what have you found out, and we learned a little bit from them as well.
Okay, well, I thank you for taking the time to give them a better opportunity.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dabrowski, for that update. A lot of info there. 5B, report on the language census report, the R30 report. Mr. Dabrowski.
Okay. Tonight we have Mrs. Gomez, Director of Language Services and Student Programs, who is going to give you a report about the R30.
Good evening. I am going to give you just numbers from the report that we give to you every year, the R30, the Census Language Report. And this report is information that we collect on our students and staff. In regards to students, it's about programs we offer and the languages they speak. And then as far as staff goes is the who provides those services. The numbers are taken on the first Wednesday in October. So on the first Wednesday of October 2018, we had 5,929 English learners and 4,794 fluent English proficient students, which means they either were IFEP when we first tested them or they reclassified. So we have over 10,000 students in our district who are either learning a second language or know a second language. So a little bit more than half of our student population. That's a high number. We have a total of over 21 languages. We have 21 languages that are identified, and we have 8 students who we don't know what language they speak. It could be that they decline to tell us what languages they speak, or it could be just that it's not one of the languages that California has on the list. So I don't know what those 8 students speak. Last year, we reclassified 509 students, and this year we're already at 873, so we have a huge change. The required programs from the state, it's structured English immersion, and that's for students who are learning to speak English at the beginning level, so that would be your 1s and 2s. And then English language mainstream for your more advanced English learners, so that would be your 3s and 4s. And then also by law, we're to offer alternative course of study for those parents who want it or ask for it. And in Jurupa, we serve our parents through the dual immersion program, which at this point has over 1,000 students in the program. And as far as who provides the services is our teachers. We have 826 teachers who are providing services, all of them who have the certificates to be able to provide that. And we have 80 paraprofessionals, so bilingual language tutors that assist teachers in the classroom. And that is it. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Gomez, for that report. Any questions? All right, Mrs. Bradford.
I always get excited when I see what languages are represented in our community because it makes me think of what incredible culture and history and family traditions. And I think we've had Aramaic in the past. I didn't see it in this study, but I wonder if there's any way we could ever have a culture fair with at the schools where they might. I used to do this at my old office because we had so many different cultures, and I organized it starting with my family of Swedish holidays, food, and what the big traditions are. So I'm always interested to know if there's any way we could share that with our other students.
Some of our schools do hold cultural nights, and they have some celebration or recognition of cultures. We don't have one district-wide that I can think of, but I know schools do.
I'd be really excited if we could be invited to that.
Okay.
Judy Lynch invited me once to her classes, Cinco de Mayo, and that was so much fun. And it's a nice way to interact with the parents, too.
Yes. We can inform you of those activities.
Thank you. Ms. Ortega.
Question, Martha, do you know if we have like demographic numbers of schools, like let's say Rubro, speaks this primary language or has? Do you know if we do it by schools or it's just?
Yes, we can have that.
Okay.
Specifically by school.
That would be nice.
Of course, in Jurupa, we have about 98% of our ELs that are Spanish speakers. So when we're talking about other languages, so like Chinese, we maybe have 8 students. Vietnamese, maybe about 11 students. And that fluctuates, but the numbers are very low in comparison to our Spanish speakers. So any school that you go to, the majority, great majority, will be Spanish.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the report.
Anybody else? Thank you so much, Martha.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. 5C, nominations for 2020 CSBA President-elect and Vice President. Mr. DeShawn.
Now my screen froze, but CSBA has nominations open. I can't make them. I would think of a couple if I could, but you have to ask the person if they want to be nominated. It's for President-elect and President, and I think that the qualifications are in your company your supplemental documents. When screen freezes, I guess the brain does. So if the board would like to make any nominations, a district has to submit a minimum of 3 nomination forms for CSBA out. It's not a district. Person has to have 2 years as a member of delegate assembly, 4 years as a board member, and that person must have 3 nomination forms. There we go. There's a list of the qualifications of CSBA for CSBA leaders, so if there's anyone on this board or any boards that you'd like to nominate, the deadline is June 3rd.
All right. Thank you, Mr. DeShawn. And the members of the board have anybody in mind? Certainly take a look. All right. So 5D.
Mr.
Yes,
President
ma'am.
Garcia,
Yes.
because you are a delegate and because you go to some of these functions, if you come across someone that you feel we maybe could nominate, could you please, and Ms. Ortega too, if you could please get us some feedback on that? We have until June, so, and if you're interested, I think you're the only one qualified because You're in your second year delegate, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm not interested, but, yeah. But, yeah, certainly I think Ms. Ortega and I could definitely make some recommendations or bring some
Sometimes we
thoughts
don't
back.
have the ability
Yeah.
to get to know some of them as closely as you do. I mean, we meet them and talk with them at trainings and stuff like that, but.
Yeah, I definitely know of a few that want to run, so we'll bring that information to
Thank
you
you.
all. Mhm.
All right. Okay, 5D, other administrative reports and written communications. Mr. DeShawn.
Well, I really don't have any, but while Mrs. Gomez is still here, I really want to acknowledge her. She has, I don't know how many years you've been director of language and student services or whatever we tacked on to her duties, but Martha works in a very quiet and humble way, but extremely effective way. And, you know, I always use, there's one metric I know. I have never met a student who graduated from our school district who doesn't speak English well. And typically of our top students, anywhere from a third to a half, basically more than our proportion in the district, are a cohort of our top students. They go to the top universities in the state and country, and I think our dual immersion program stands out as one of the highest qualities with, I mean, it just gets me so excited when we have students in the 8th grade taking AP Spanish. We've opened so many doors for our students. It is not a really easy program. Martha makes it look easy, but it requires lots of logistics and not displacing existing teachers, but bringing programs into schools. And you may find this surprising, but what is it, 13 years now that we've had it, 12 years? It wasn't received initially well by everybody, sad to say. And it's just become so much a part of our district. I wish we could do it everywhere, but I think that would be impracticable, if that's a word, meaning it just can't be done. But I just, kudos to Martha and the fantastic job she does, and really serving our children who bring their culture but learn our culture, who bring their language but learn our language in DI, which oftentimes brings a language back to third generation students whose families don't speak their native language anymore. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. DeShawn. And now we're on to our public hearing session. First item, hold public hearing on initial bargaining proposal from CSEA Jurupa 392. Mr. Brooks.
As required by both law and board policy, the board should conduct a public hearing on the initial bargaining proposal from CSEA Jurupa 392 for the 2019-2020 school year. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the public to express its opinion to the board concerning the initial negotiating proposal, which is included in the supporting documents. At this time, the board president should formally open and close a public hearing on the proposal.
At this time, I would like to open the public hearing on the initial bargaining proposal from CSEA Jurupa 392. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I will close this hearing. On to the next item, number 2. Hold public hearing on initial bargaining proposal to CSEA Jurupa 392. Mr. Brooks.
Also required by law and board policy, the board should conduct a public hearing on the initial bargaining proposal to CSEA Jurupa 392 for the 2019-2020 school year. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the public to express its opinion to the board concerning the initial negotiations proposal, which is included in the supporting documents. So again, at this time, the board president should formally open and close a public hearing on the proposal.
All right, this time I would like to open the public hearing on initial bargaining proposal to CSEA Jurupa 392. Are there any comments from the public regarding this matter? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the hearing. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Okay, we're on to the action session. If you would, the board, would you please refresh your screens to make sure we can vote? Okay, item A, approve and adopt routine action items by consent. Mr. Dabrowski, I think you have a correction.
We'd like to make one correction, and that's we'd like to remove item number 22 from the list.
Thank you. You wanna make a motion?
So moved.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ms. Ortega. Second by Ms. Chard. Any questions or comments? Okay, let's call for the vote, please.
It was just taking a little while to refresh.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay, item B, approve purchase order / contract increases. Mrs. Ford.
Thank you. At the beginning of the school year, the Business Services Department estimated the projected annual expenditures for open purchase orders and contracts. Due to increases in the cost of products and some revised needs, these estimates occasionally require adjustment. You have a list of the increases that were previously approved by the board, the purchase orders and the contracts, and each of the contracts were competitively bid, or they met the alternative government cooperative agreement requirement. So you have a table there with a list of the contracts, and those are the ones that we are asking the board to, recommending that the board approve the purchase order contract increases as listed.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford.
I had a question. Mrs. Ford, is there any way we can forecast these increases?
There are some increases that we can. We had a couple of things happen with food, and that's the largest ones, especially Driftwood Dairy and Gold Star Foods. There was actually a merger between, like one of our food vendors went out of business, and they merged into Gold Star Foods. So unfortunately, then that kind of makes the competition not there. So we did have that situation. This is actually the highest amount we anticipate, so we may not actually come in at these amounts, but we're just projecting till the end of the year that this may be what we need through June 30th. So it could very well be that we're lower than these amounts.
So this is till the end of the year?
Correct, till June 30th.
And how many other districts are part of this?
It depends on which
line item?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the piggyback bids are based on another district that have already bid, and they've identified this as the lowest responsive bidder, and then we piggyback on that bid.
And then, so we're going to do this again in next year, and as Sylvia had asked,
correct,
we'll be a little bit more prepared. I mean, I know sometimes there is an influx in price that was not predicted.
Right.
But the contract, they can change the pricing based, even if we're committed?
They can't change the pricing, but our needs went up. So we ordered more pizza, we ordered more milk, we ordered more, so that they can change.
And are these for specific students?
This is across the district.
Oh, okay.
This is the entire district. Yeah. So the ag parts, that was actually Chromebook parts. So those are, we try our best to identify at the beginning of the school year how much we plan to spend in repairs and parts that we're purchasing for Chromebooks. But we never know if students are going to be a little harder on them than we anticipated. There's going to be more breakage, than we anticipate. So that's where that adjustment comes in. And then on the food, again, we're kind of at the...
Are more kids eating at school? Is that why we're going through more cafeteria food?
We could be, yes. So, right now we're anticipating, and this was actually the first year that we did this with the PO like this on a piggyback bid for our foods. So we estimated the best that we could based on prior years. But it looks like, we're at the point now where we need to increase that PO.
And then are we still at a savings if we are piggybacking with other districts?
Yes, we're still realizing the savings because we're still getting that low bid, responsive bidder cost.
Okay.
Yes.
Great,
So we're still getting the savings, we're just having to increase because we are purchasing more product.
Okay.
The price that you're giving there for the increase, is that increase to, or is that in addition to what we previously had contracted to each of these?
It's in addition to what we previously contracted.
All right.
We eat a lot as a district, all 19,200 of us. We like pizza too.
Yeah.
We do. And it could be, some of the things with pizza is if pizza's ordered for other things that are outside of the nutrition services program, that could be part of it's ordered through nutrition services, but it's still on the pizza PO.
And does this cover summer school? Do we feed the kids?
Yes.
So this is going to go for most of summer
Correct.
school?
We have the summer feed program, so
Right.
that summer
Okay.
feed program goes all through the summer.
Okay.
And am I in the right assumption that, our students increasing too? The number of our students are increasing too, so we have to also accommodate to that?
We did have an increase this year of about 170 students, so that's in addition to what we anticipated the numbers would be.
Do we have is this for gasoline, the oil company?
Yes.
Can
And a lot of that has to do, just over the course of the year, you'll notice, I'm sure you've noticed it at the gas pump, gas prices have gone up. So fuel costs are, unfortunately, we have to buy the fuel just like everyone else does. So we're paying those same prices.
Do we ever have the option to buy options for if to buy at a specified price?
We haven't for our, our unleaded fuel. So, we buy our unleaded fuel just like we normally would. We do that with our gas prices. So, so like our CNG, we have a special pricing that we are on for that. So we don't actually buy that through California Gas. We buy that through another vendor that we do get a pool price on that.
That's exciting. How about for diesel?
We have I don't even know if we have any diesel left. We have very, very little diesel if we do. I don't know how many diesel vehicles we have, yeah. I know we have our unleaded fuel for our fleet. If we have diesel, it's very little diesel that we have.
I can't imagine it being much of the budget.
All right, I move to approve.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ortega. Any additional comments or questions? All right, let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 5-0. Item C, approved site comprehensive safety plans. Mrs. Ford.
Each year, the school site safety committees review and revise their school site comprehensive safety plans, and that's pursuant to Ed Code. Each plan has been reviewed and approved by both each school site safety committee, as well as the school site councils. And copies of the plans are included in the backup materials. And the plans do meet all the required requirements, and this is really a compliance document.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Chard, second by Ms. Ortega. Any questions or comments? Thanks to all the schools. It's a lot of reading that we did this weekend, and but it's very comprehensive and it's important.
That was 2,829 pages, if anybody did count.
Thank you for putting it into the record.
So, okay, all right. Let's call for the vote, please.
Well, at least we know our students are going to be well covered.
Motion passes 5-0. Item D, adopt resolution number 2019/32 and resolution number 2019/33, employee recognition. Mr. Duchamp.
Well, we take 2 weeks out of the year to appreciate our employees even more than we appreciate them all year. So May 6th through 10th is the National Teacher Appreciation Week, and May 19th through 25th has been set aside as Classified School Employee Week. And each year we bring to you a resolution that doesn't really tell you how much we really appreciate all the people that pay us, teach us, drive us, feed us. I can't even think of all the things that everybody does. I usually try to give a representative list. I know the ones closest to me are they turn the lights on, open the doors, make sure my paycheck gets here, operate the little food cart. And so even our very daily needs, as much as making sure everything works throughout the district. And it's true that we appreciate them each and every day, but these resolutions celebrate them even more. So we recommend that you pass these two resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Duchamp.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ms. Chard,
Second.
second by Ms. Regal. Any questions, comments? Okay, Ms. Bradford.
So does this go in, how are they celebrated publicly other than the resolution?
We're even nicer, those two. That we do have National Bus Drivers Day. We post a copy of the resolution. That's basically it.
They have a great barbecue.
Yeah, the bus drivers have a great barbecue. Sites will recognize their, each group individually also. And
All right. Let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 5-0. Item E, adopt resolution number 2019/34, resolution of the Board of Education of the Jurupa Unified School District authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $6 million aggregate principal amount of Jurupa Unified School District Community Facilities District number 18 special tax bonds 2019 Series A, prescribing the terms thereof, approving various financing documents, and providing for other matters related thereto. Mrs. Ford.
Thank you. Administration has worked with the district's finance team to prepare documentation allowing the district to issue special tax bonds on behalf of the Community Facilities District number 18. This CFD 18 is a Frontier Communities development. It's located at the corner of Wineville and Cantu Galliano and will contain approximately 176 homes. The bonds will be used under, issued under the Melrose Community Facilities Act of 1982. The district's estimated facility proceeds of the issuance is $2.2 million to be used toward improving and equipping schools that are within that boundary of the CFD, which would be Del Sol and Jurupa Valley High School. Proceeds to the Park District are estimated to be $1.2 million, and that again would be used in that area. And all facility funds will benefit the residents of CFD 18, as I mentioned. Bond proceeds will also fund a reserve account, and they'll pay costs that are associated with the issuance and delivery of the bonds. The true interest cost of the CFD 18 bonds is estimated to be 4.58%. The finance charge in connection with the sale of the bonds is estimated to be $258,000. The total of all payments of CFD 18 to final maturity are expected to be $8.3 million. This resolution also approves the form of 4 additional documents: a fiscal agent agreement between the district and Zion's Bank, a bond purchase agreement between the district and the underwriter, Stiefel, a preliminary official statement, otherwise known as a POS, with an attached continuing disclosure agreement, which is the disclosure document that's used by the underwriters when they market the CFD 18 bonds. So at this time, administration recommends the board adopt resolution number 2019/34, resolution of the Board of Education of the Jurupa Unified School District authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $6 million aggregate principal amount of the Jurupa Unified School District Community Facilities District number 18 special tax bonds. Should I keep going? 2019 Series A, prescribing the terms thereof, approving various financing documents, and providing for other matters related thereto. I almost made that in one breath.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford. Motion by Ms. Ortega,
I'll second it.
second by Mrs. Bradford. Any questions or comments?
How long is it going to take for the bond to be paid off?
So I'll have Rachel come up and she can give you, I believe these are.
Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board. Just to state that for the record, my name is Rachel Chen Kwai from Cooperative Strategies. We serve JUSD as your financial advisor. And Mrs. Rago, to answer your question, the bonds are anticipated to be repaid over a 30-year term.
30 years.
And that is all the financing estimates and what the maturities are based on.
And this is only to the schools, you said Del Sol and Jurupa Valley High School? And it's for structural or modifications?
Right, so it's Del Sol and Jurupa Valley High School are the areas because it's within that CFD boundary. And it can be used on facility projects that are related to either of those 2 schools within the boundary area.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure.
Any other questions for Rachel while she's here?
I do have a question. No, I don't understand this stuff really well, so, but we already have a new one out there, don't we? Because of Del Sol and the Innovation Center came under the
Right.
E-bonds.
We have several CFDs that are in that area. So we have CFD 8, 9, 10, 11A, 11B,
And
15, 17, and 18. I think I
Correct.
got them all.
Yes, you did.
Let me just try to give you a very simple way of thinking about it. The CFD cost is tied to the development. So any development could come in under a CFD. So this particular development, Frontier Development, they pay the bill. The money can be used for schools that service them. In this case, it's Jurupa Valley High School and Del Sol. So as long as there's a connection between the homeowner and the benefit of having a school there or improving the school, it works. And that's the simplest way, that's the way I think of it. You pay money, you get better school.
Absolutely, and the Belarus Act, and as well as all the formation documents as we form the CFDs on behalf of the school district, working with Mrs. Ford's office, is to make sure it provides you utmost flexibility to supplement your existing facilities funding program. And any facilities that have a useful life of more than 5 years is eligible. And the benefits, as Mr. Duchamp mentioned, as tied to the particular development, those can be direct or indirect, and I know as a best practice, we try to make a direct benefit from the development.
And we don't have anything specific in mind that it's going to, it's just whatever the future needs are.
Right. It's really part of our whole facilities program. So working in conjunction with, Dr. Hansen's team, he would be identifying the projects, and these are more the CFD funds, because they are for a certain area, they're more restricted than what our Measure EE funds would be. So it's being able to leverage the two so that we use those more restricted funds first for projects if we need to in that area, and that opens up then the Measure EE funds to be used somewhere else as an example. But it really is working with his team to identify what all the projects are and then where best to use that funding.
Do we have some in mind that are specific and very needed right now?
We for this particular one, we actually identified like modernization at Jurupa Valley High School, because that's it's eligible for modernization at this point. So that would be a particular area that we might look at with this. But again, it will depend on state facility fund, state facility bond funds coming into us. If that comes in, that could change a little bit what we do with the CFD funds. So again, it's looking at that total program as opposed to just looking at one small component of the funding.
Have we heard any more information on that from the state? Are we still waiting?
Yeah, we're still waiting. We anticipate that money will start coming in the next year, and then the following year we'll have other grants. We're being reviewed for, I believe, 2 projects now. But just keep in mind that Jurupa Valley High School was due for modernization in 2014, so it's well past the 25-year modernization schedule. So these dollars, since Del Sol's been built and we paid for that with other money, these dollars will be set aside to help with those projects, or also reimburse former Measure EE projects in the area, so that we have those Measure EE dollars back in our pool to be used throughout the district. Gives us more flexibility to expand those dollars.
Yeah. Thank you.
I also just want to add real quick. So normally, if a developer, like let's say you're going to build a house, right? The school has fees, right? Impact mitigation fees, right? So the CFD is like really in lieu of that. So we're not. Is that correct? Just kind of want to make sure the board understands we're not just taxing people. I mean, this developments are going to impact our district, and so that's kind of where we're coming from, I think.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's exactly it. So the developers have an option. They can pay their school fees up front. So every time they pull a permit at the city to build a house, they pay a certain amount in developers fees. Or they can, if they have a project like the size of this one, which there's 176 anticipated homes, then they could approach us and say, would you be willing to form a community facilities district, where then they're not paying those fees up front.
I have one more question. In the unexpected turn of the economy, and we go through foreclosures at a high rate, what happens to those taxes, and how are the funds covered to pay the bonds?
And this is where we work very closely with our financial advisor, Ms. Rachel, who makes sure that we have money available to be able to meet that tax need, even if we do look at a situation where there's a foreclosure or downturn in the economy. But she can go into it more, but we work very closely on that.
Absolutely. So there are certainly belts and suspenders put in place to make sure the district has all the best ability to repay your financings. One of which is to make sure if we anticipate to collect a certain amount of special taxes based on unit absorption, as well as their special tax levy classes, we make sure that we do not plan the repayment to be up to 100% of that, however 90% of it. So 10% of the coverage, what we consider debt service coverage, will help you weather those storms should another housing downturn come and we see the foreclosure or delinquency levels that we saw in the last housing downturn. But just for the record, historically speaking, we never got to over double-digit percentage looking at Jurupa CFDs in the past for delinquency rates. The other thing that, as Mrs. Ford mentioned, we fund a debt service reserve fund. In other words, setting cash aside as a part of the financing to help you better anticipate, and should you need to be the taxes delinquent and that you need additional funds to pay principal and interest payment on your bonds, we can draw on that debt service reserve fund. We also have other measures in place, but those are a couple that are most significant for securing the repayment abilities.
That's also one of the reasons why, and I know you've been approached about this before, but that's one of the reasons why we also, if there are any surplus proceeds, when we issue the bonds, we maintain those surplus proceeds. so that those are then also available as a backup to the backup option that Rachel just explained.
Mr. Ortega? No?
She's so nice to come.
I know. You have a question, Mr. Ortega?
Yeah, I'm curious to know how new laws of affordable housing will affect too with these tax bonds. Do we know, or do we have an idea?
And specifically for the CFD that has already been formed, the product type, the special tax classes have already been set. So personally, I do not expect any significant impact by the Affordable Housing Act on your existing CFDs. Perhaps it would change the district's CFD program as a whole going forward. Understanding that for affordable housing and I have to delegate the response to the developers as they plan the residential project meeting all the affordable housing requirements, what are their long-term plan, and does it still fit in the box for a community facilities program that also meets the school district's need for funding facilities. So that might have an impact, but at the near future, we do not anticipate any.
Thank you.
This might help a little or not. The fee, the school fee, really comes about because we are not allowed to stop a developer by using an Environmental Quality Act process. So we are required, the developer's required to pay a fee. We're required to collect the fee. It's really not arbitrary. If we don't, the state will count it against what we would get from the state. So you can't be nice guys and say, oh, we like this developer, we're not going to do it. In essence, every developer has to pay a square footage amount or use a CFD to pay in lieu of that. And even on affordable housing, I don't think there's any waiver on the school fee. There's some waivers on additions, I think, to senior citizens, or there's a very few waivers on property additions.
All right. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Beth. Thank you for being here tonight. Okay. So let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 5-0. Item F, approve personnel matters. First one, F1, approve initial bargaining proposal from CSCA, Jurupa 392. Mr. Brooks.
During the board meeting on April 1st, 2019, the board received and reviewed the initial bargaining proposal from CSCA Jurupa 392. Following the public hearing earlier this evening, administration recommends that the board approve the initial bargaining proposal from CSCA Jurupa 392 as printed in the supporting documents.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Ortega,
Second.
second by Mrs. Regal. Any questions or comments? All right, let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 5-0. Item F2, approve initial bargaining proposal to CSCA 392. Mr. Brooks.
Also during the board meeting on April 1st, 2019, the board received and reviewed the initial bargaining proposal to CSCA Jurupa 392. Following the public hearing a little earlier this evening, administration recommends that the board approve the initial bargaining proposal to CSCA Jurupa 392.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Chard,
Second.
second by Mrs. Regal. Any questions or comments? All right, let's call for the vote, please. Motion passes 5-0. Our final item, item G, board member committee reports. Ms. Ortega, start with you.
I have no reports to report, but I just wanted to congratulate our colleagues who are finishing up their masters in governance. It brings good memories to my memory that we also had, finished that within the time that we were here, and making the board all a unanimous board for being educated and also learning. And I think there's a quote that says, leaders are readers, but I think also leaders are learners. So, and we have that here, that it's unlimited to learn, and there's no limits to learning. So just wanted to congratulate ladies for that. And I know board member Rego and I were talking about even taking speed reading courses to read faster, and I think this weekend we put it to the test. And then with that, I also got accepted to a certificate program in Loma Linda for public health. And so I have homework to do tonight too. It's due on Mondays. So again, I think we're also letting our students know and our community know that us up here as leaders are also learning, and we're never, we have questions, and it's for the reasoning for us to continue to learn. So we appreciate you all for sticking with us in the learning journey too. And then 2 events that I will be attending to, and I lied to you guys last board meeting. I think I had said that the extravaganza for Healthy Jurupa Valley was this past weekend, but it's actually this coming up weekend on the 27th, and it's from 8 to 12. So I think that would really be interesting for us to attend, and a lot of community members will be there to connect. And lastly, just wanted to say Happy Easter for anybody who celebrates this Sunday. Wishing you all and your family happy holidays, and we'll see you back in May. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Mrs. Bradford.
Trustee Ortega, you make me think of that wonderful book from the 70s by Alvin Toffler called Future Shock. He said that the illiterate of the future will not be those who cannot read, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. That's my sobering thought for us. But back to the subject of committee report. This afternoon I was part of the district's charitable foundation giving out scholarships, which there's so many reasons for all of us to be proud of, both our students who are the learners and our teachers who are the inspirers, and from the bus drivers and the crossing guards who greet our children and set them in the mood for the day and help them. It's really what I've seen this last week has been so much to put tears in my eyes. Of these are still children, and they are precious, and they try hard, and whether they're our goals, of course, are to make them ready for life and college and career ready. And I keep thinking of how much pressure they face, like you were saying, Mr. Dubrovsky, with the foster youth. I remember visiting children at the Safe House shelter, and they said no matter how chaotic and dysfunctional the homes were, the children just wanted to have a family. And I think of how much of a family our school presents to providing stability. So thank you again from top down.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradford. Mrs. Chard.
I just have a couple of things. I want to remind everyone about Bus Drivers Day next week. And also I have a DAC meeting next week, and the CTA meeting I think is Thursday of this week. I want to congratulate Mr. Lewis on his honor. Sorry I missed that before. And our deputies also, thank you again for all the hard work you do. I know the students really do appreciate it. And even the employees appreciate having you around. It is soothing to have a deputy, there that you can talk to or can discuss things or just have them in their sight. And I think that's all I have next week. Oh, and then look forward to the teacher and classified weeks coming up in May. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Chard. Mrs. Regal.
Beatus, congratulations again. But I really, really appreciate you because you can make sure you're going to always hear everybody in the room. So thank you. And Josh, well earned. And I think everybody has you on speed dial whenever we have like a little technology issue. So congratulations. And then Valerie Bada, congratulations, Mission Inn. That's a great prize. Good idea. Very good idea. Student board members, I didn't get a chance to thank them for coming this week. I think I appreciate them, and it's not that I take them for granted. I just kind of like, oh, yeah, you're here. Let's all get to work, and then they walk away, and I never say thank you. So if they're ever listening, I really appreciate it. And then this Thursday I'll be attending the Norco College Dinner, part of the President Advisory this week, and they're growing the network and really trying to gain some momentum. And then Sylvia, thank you for the kind words and encouragement to go through Master in Governance. It's a lot of homework. It definitely is. And you're older when you actually enjoy studying. So, but we have one more class we'll be completing on May 4th? May 4th, yes. And then we'll be graduates. And then I think that is all I have. Oh, yes, Happy Easter. I will be getting a ham from Rubidoux High School. I'm really excited about it, from their AG or FFA program. So they've already put one on hold for me, and I'll be enjoying one of their hams for Easter, the holiday.
Thank you, Mr. Regal. Lastly, I just want to thank Mr. Lewis, congratulate him again. And of course, Mrs. Martha Gomez. I know great event this past weekend. And it wasn't just staff. I mean, there were parent volunteers too, people checking people in. It's a lot of things going on. And so it takes a lot of effort, and we appreciate it. And I also joined the Charitable Purpose Foundation with Mrs. Bradford. And I got to review, the students' applications, and they're, very impressive. And so looking forward to when those scholarships are presented. And that's all I have for tonight. Mr. Duchamp, any final comments?
Well, just a couple. I want to thank the board for working through the small amount of reading that we gave you this weekend, and remind you that if you are part of the health plan, we do have vision plan. So if your eyes are overly strained, you might need to take advantage of that. I had the opportunity, I'm sorry I could not attend the dual immersion showcase. I had made a commitment, which I do once a year, to teach the Acts of Business class. And at that class, it was interesting. Linda, you will recognize the name. Juan Pinalosa was there trying to build his career and look at business. So, and we had another person, I do not remember her last name. Lisa is the Assistant Superintendent of Instruction in Corona Norco, who was a graduate of Rubidoux High School. So before I even got there, Jurupa was well represented, and it was nice to see some familiar faces, and one that I didn't really realize came from us. But I meet a lot of times graduates who came from our district, and she just said she watched us for many years and was very fond of the things we do. So that was good to hear. So.
All right, thank you. Today's April 15th, so you got 3 hours and 38 minutes to submit your taxes. So please do so. And meeting is adjourned.